Hi Ladysmith and area friends, Tammy from Ladysmith Parks Recreation and Culture. Today's Youthsolation creation will be creating Mandala works of art. Happy Youth Week everyone. I'm going to walk you through all of the things that you need to gather up to be able to do this art creation with me. You're definitely going to want something to cover your space. Not that it's very messy, it's just the very beginning. You need to put your background on your medium. So some things that you can get to do this for your background can be little canvases that you can purchase. They're really inexpensive at dollar stores. Or you can use, I also used cardstock. This is actually just a piece of scrapbooking paper. It's a little bit heavier and it comes in black or dark blue or dark green, whatever color you like. I also have some white cardstock as well. So it's your choice. If you don't have the cardstock paper or this, the other thing you can use is a nice flat piece of cardboard, cut it to the shape that you like, and then you can use it as your background. It just needs to be a little bit stiffer and really nice and flat. So that's easy. I also have some other examples. I cut some more cardstock and I found these really cool they're just little canvases, but they're already pre-painted black. The other things you're going to need is you're going to need a variety of colors, your choice in color of paint. So pick a few colors that you really, really like. You don't need tons, but acrylic paint works really, really well. So I have quite a variety here today. You'll probably see that when I get into pouring my palette that there's going to be lots of blues in there. I tend to stick to blues. You're going to need some background colors, so I've chosen black as my background. It makes the colors really pop, but you could use dark blue, dark green, you could have a light background. The sky's the limit there. You're definitely going to need a pair of scissors, you're going to need a ruler, something to use as a paint palette. I have a paint palette, but the other thing that works really, really great is old ice cube trays because they have all the compartments. You can put all your different colors of paint in. So those work really well. You're going to need some water in a jar just for your initial brush. You're going to need just a rag cloth that's wet. I just put mine in a bowl just to keep it from making marks everywhere. A cutting, if you're going to cut your paper to make smaller sizes, you're going to want a little paper cutter, or just scissors and a ruler will work as well. You're going to want a variety of things that are circular, that have just a flat end on them. So some things I found around home are pencils. So the end of your pencil, as long as the eraser hasn't been used, works great. And then a fairly dull pencil on the other end will make a fine dot. The other thing that's really easy that most people have in their houses are cotton swabs. Cotton swabs, you can take the cotton swab and take all the cotton off of the end, and that will make a small dot for you. You can take half of the cotton off and push it kind of flat and then put some white paint on it or whatever color, it doesn't matter. And then allow it to dry so that it's stiff. And then you can make another one with the full cotton on the end and just pushing the cotton flat when you get the paint wet. We'll show you a little bit later how to do that so that you can do it correctly. The other thing that I found lying around the house that works really well, is most people have them, is I found some skewers. So the flat end of the skewer, there's a couple different sizes I had, and you can also use the fine point to make fine detailed dots as well. Those all work well. The other thing that we had kicking around our house, because we like to do our fingernails and our toenails, is we had a little dot and to draw designs on toenails, and that gives you a really fine point as well. So lots of options. The thing that I did find, and you can look in your house and see if you have them, is I found a set and I purchased them and had them picked up at the door of the store. They're actually crochet hooks, but they're plastic. So because they were plastic and they're solid, I just used some sandpaper and filed off the ends to make the ends flat. And so it gave me, as you can see, a very good variety of round ends. So I have everything from big to teeny. That's one way of doing it. I would suggest though, if you're gonna go rooting through your mom's crochet hooks, that you ask permission before you file off the ends. For me in my house, I found that they're still perfectly good crochet hooks, but they now have a multi-use. So that's what I did for myself. So to get started today, you're going to choose what you're going to use as your medium. Now, if you are using a black piece of cardstock, you're one step ahead of the game. You're ready to go. You have your background, or if you're choosing to do white, I'm going to take my canvas and I'm going to paint my whole canvas black because that's what I want my backdrop to be. So I have just a simple paintbrush, just fairly wide one. It's nice and easy to do that. You're also today going to want to make sure that you have a white pencil crayon, and we'll get to that later. Let's think if there's anything else I've missed. No, I don't think so. So I'm going to get my black paint, especially with this kind of paint. This is really inexpensive acrylic paint. You just want to give it a quick shake up before you're going to use it, just so that it's mixed really, really well. And this is not going to. Okay, so with this little canvas, I found it really easy just to take the black paint and not put it in my palette. I'm just gonna put a bunch of paint in the middle, and then I'm just gonna start painting and try to get all of the parts of my canvas solid black. Now we'll go over it, and don't worry too much if it's bumpy when you're painting the first layer of the coat, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna smooth it out after we get just the primary canvas totally painted black. Now again, I chose black. You can choose dark navy blue, you can choose a color. It's up to you. It's what you like the best. So I'm gonna need some more paint. Shouldn't have closed it. Leave it open this time. It's a good idea to possibly be wearing a shirt that you're not too worried about getting some paint on. I'm not super messy with this, but if you haven't painted before, could be a good idea to have a paint smock or even just an apron. I'm not going to worry about one today because I found that once we start to do our dots, it's not very messy at all. The messiest part is getting your canvas base coat done. So I like to make sure that the edges are also black. So this is a fairly thin canvas. Just show you an example of a thicker one, which I had right there. Oh, yes I do. So here's an example. So this is a really thin canvas. You can also get the canvases that have a wood background. So when I'm talking about painting the edges of the canvas, if I was to do this canvas, I would make sure that I painted along these edges as well. Make sure that they're all black, because then when you actually put it up on the wall, it actually looks nice. And you actually, if you wanted to, you could wrap your dots around the edge of the canvas. That's another option for you. So if you could see my canvas up close right now, you would notice that I have some kind of blop piles of paint in the middle of the canvas. I don't want to have those dry like that because they will dry as bumps on my canvas. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start at one side and I'm going to go back and forth very lightly, without trying to push a lot of the paint everywhere. So I'm just going back and forth very lightly. Once I do that, I'm just going to do a really light in one direction across the other way. What it does is it's going to make your canvas nice and smooth and flat so that there aren't any bumpy paint bits on there that are going to look odd when you try and put a dot down. So it's a very flat surface that you have. And that's all it takes to get our canvas prepped and ready. I'm going to get a piece of paper towel that I have just off to the side here so that that excess paint that I wiped everywhere doesn't get all over everything. And we'll set this up front here. Just that way I'm not tracking it everywhere. Perfect. So that's how we get our base of our canvas ready to go. Now, talking about our pieces that we're going to use, we were talking, I'm going to get a little bit of white paint into my, this is just acrylic paint, a different brand and kind. I'm going to get some white paint in there. Now, we talked about making our cotton balls into dots, things to apply dots. So one way to do it is to take all the cotton off, and a little bit of a challenge depending on what kind of cotton balls you have, of cotton swabs you have. Now, some cotton swabs have plastic sticks in them. These ones that I have are just paper. I kind of actually prefer the paper ones because I can actually dampen it a little bit, and then it's easier for me to actually get the cotton off of it. I just found that if I spin it around, because you don't want to have any little fuzzy cotton bits wrecking your dot that you put on your page. So this is the first one. And now this one just has the end that has nothing. on it. Now if you wanted to, you could use the opposite end to make the one with half. I'm just going to show you, I'm just going to make 3 solid ones. So the next one, I'm going to take half of the cotton off, not all, just half. I'm going to take half the cotton off. I'm going to dip it in a little bit of my white paint. Your fingers are going to get messy here, and I'm going to roll it around, and I'm going to try and make that top flat. I need a little more paint. So I just have the paint on my finger, and I'm just rolling it around, and then I'm going to try and make that, and you can use your table to work that dot, and then smooth it down. You want to try and make the end flat. And then just smooth it out very carefully. And so you get an end. So I'm going to leave that one across this one to dry, and then we have one that is completely got all the cotton on it. I'm going to get a little bit more paint on there. I chose white. Does not have to be white paint. It can be whatever color you have handy. It's not a big deal. And again, this one's going to be a little bit bigger, and I'm going to push and flatten the end as best I can to make that end flat. Might take a couple times. And then again, just smoothing it out. I'm being really picky about the fuzzies. I don't like fuzzies. Okay, and so you have a third size, okay? And we're just gonna set those. I'm gonna use my cloth here to wipe my fingers off. This is why we have a wet rag. Makes life easier. Okay, paper towel. So I'm just gonna set those off to the side to let them dry. And those we can use later if we need to. So we're gonna set them off to the side and let them dry. We also now have our canvas drying. It doesn't take very long for your acrylic paint to dry. If you want it to dry a bit quicker so that you can get right into working, 2 things you can use if you have them in your house. A blow dryer helps, works really well. Just put it on a low, warm setting and just back and forth, and it will help dry your paint. Another thing that works as well, but you have to be very careful of how close you get it to your canvas, is if you have an embossing gun for scrapbooking and stamping, you can use your embossing gun, but make sure that you're about 6 inches away. And then again, just nice and slow waves back and forth will dry your canvas very quickly. What we're gonna do here next is I'm gonna get you to load some paint into your palette. I'm going to choose a bunch of colors. We're gonna get our palette loaded, and once we have our palette loaded, I'm gonna get you up close and we're gonna practice some techniques before we actually lay out our mandala. So I'm gonna get some paint into my palette here. So I have a lot of different colors today. I found some really nice shimmery metallic colors. They're not exactly the cheapest paints on earth, but they were really pretty colors and I loved them, so I got them. So I have a really nice metallic turquoise, and I'm just gonna put a little blob of that into my paint tray. You don't need a ton of paint when you're doing this. Really don't. The first time I gave this a try, I just literally took the paint right out of the container. I just dotted out of the container, but for today we're gonna put it in here. I have this amazing blue that I really like too, and again, it's metallic-y. You don't have to use metallic paint. You can use like flat paint. I've some beautiful things I've seen with flat paint. So not a lot of paint in there. Try not to waste any. Okay. I have a really pretty silver metallic paint. I have a dark purple, and then I'm going to have some white and possibly some pastel-y pink in there too. So we'll see what inspires me today. Pick colors that you love and enjoy, or if you're doing this to decorate and put things in your room, have a look at the colors you have and make an accent and be creative. There's no rules really here. The other thing I have, and I'm going to put quite a bit of it down once I stir it up because it's separated. Metallic paint is really separates quite a bit, especially if it's all pearly or metallic paint. So you need to give it a really good stir or a really good shake with these ones because they're kind of a tub. I found that a stir is much better than a shake. You don't want to do that before you put it in, or what you end up with is kind of like a clear coat paint that doesn't really make a dot very well. So I'm going to give myself quite a bit of this because I am going to use this to mix and make some of my other colors lighter as we go along today. Okay, so this is my metallic purple. Yeah. Really good shake of this one to see if I can mix it up well enough. And I did get the one that's not quite open. Oh, that's pretty good. Let's see if we get it to come out. There we go. Purple. And then I have some light purple. Put that in there as well. What other colors do I have? And I have a light purpley pink. Really awesome bright blue. Pop some of that in there. And any other colors? And some white, which I already have. Perfect. Okay, so we have our kind of palette all kind of set and ready to go here. I'm just gonna fold that over. As you can see, I have lots of different colors in my palette. Ones that they kind of, to me, look like they'll work together really well. One other thing that I forgot to mention earlier that you could be doing these on versus like paper or cardboard or this, if you found a really amazing river rock that was smooth and you could paint it out as well, you can do these on rocks. It's pretty amazing. They look beautiful. You can set them outside. So that's another option as well. So while we're letting our canvas dry, we're going to practice some techniques. So we're going to get up close so that you can see those techniques up close. Okay, so I have a piece of just the cardstock paper that we're going to use to try some techniques. So you've gathered all of your things, all of your dot application tools, and you've got your paint in your palette. We have our canvas drying, and we're just going to try some things. Give it a try. So there's one more tool that I created to make a really nice big dot in the middle. And I used a plain old pencil that was not sharpened, and I took some hot glue, and I happen to have a nickel handy, so I glued a nickel on the end, and I kept the head side of the nickel as the downside because it's flatter and less rigid. And so I'm just going to show you what it looks like to do a nice center dot. I found out that my easel doesn't quite fit my nickel, so definitely if you're choosing your color for your center dot and you have a bigger space in your palette, then definitely put it there. So I'm just gonna dip it in the pearly white, get quite a bit of paint on there. It's got a lot of paint on it. And then holding your paper down, because paper is quite lightweight, I'm just going to press that right down into the paper and then lift straight up. Scrape the excess off, clean it off on my wet, and then set it off to the side. Now, as you notice, I'm not sure if you can see, I'll bring it up nice and close so that you can see, there's quite a bump of paint in the middle. That bump of paint in the middle is not necessarily something that you want in the middle of your mandala. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take one of your fine tools, I just grabbed the smallest one I have, and you're just gonna spread that paint out and work it around your circle, trying hard not to touch the edge, to try and flatten that big blob of paint out. I had quite a big blob there. I don't think I've had one that big so far. I might have had a little too much paint on, but you're just gonna flatten that bump out to help that spot dry flat. The reason why you might wanna do this is because you can actually, once that spot just dry, is you can do another dot on top of that, and you can do multi layers of dots as well. So that's how to apply the dot in the middle. We are next going to practice just doing dots of the same size. So I'm just gonna take, one of these little dowel sticks, craft sticks, and I'm gonna show you just how to make dots of the same size. So I'm gonna choose a different color here. I'll choose this nice pearly turquoise. When you do dots of the same size, you wanna get a bit of paint on the end, and then you just wanna do a dot. The next you wanna do is re-dip it in the paint, line it back up, and do another dot. And your dots will stay fairly consistent in size. Same pressure down and then lift. So that's how to get a dot to stay the same size, which you're going to use lots in your creation that you're going to make today. The next is to make dots decrease in size. So we're going to take, we'll use silver for fun, choose a different color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dot my first dot, and then without re-dipping in the paint, I'm going to continue to dot the dots. And as you can see, my dots decrease in size. Now I'm using a wooden dowel that I haven't really sanded, and I just noticed that it has a little fleck off the side, and that's why my dots have this little funny flick off of them that I'm not sure you can see there. So I'm going to lift this up so that you can see a little better in the camera. So there's the center dot, equal size dots, and decreasing dots. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to do decreasing dots, but do them so that they join together. So I'm going to make kind of a leaf shape. I'm going to dip one of my smaller tools in, and I'm going to do my first dot in the center, and then I'm going to come kind of on an angle and around and decrease my other dots. Oops, the last one didn't go so well. Then I want to do the same thing, but on the other side. The first thing I'm going to do is start on my original dot, re-dot it, and then go and count the same number down the outside. Now I find when I do decreasing dots, if I'm going to do 4 down, one of the flat tools works really, really well. If I want to continue down and get any smaller, then having one of the tools that has the round end on it works a lot better. So I'll show you again the same thing. So I'm going to make a dot, and then I'm going to 1, 2, 5, and again I'm going to dot, same spot, 1, 2, 3, 4, and finish on the end 5. So again, that is decreasing in size. Works really, really well. The next thing we're going to practice doing is we're going to practice doing where we make the dot and then we drag some of the paint. And you can do this with any of your tools. I've actually found that any of the tools that are kind of rounded on the end and the actual Q-tip with nothing on the end works quite well. So I'm just going to show you how that works. I'm going to use a little bit of light pink for fun. Okay, so I'm going to make my dot and then I'm going to swipe. Again, I'm going to make my dot and then I'm going to swipe. You can swipe up. You can, the more paint you put on there, the more wide your swipe is going to look. If you want it to be finer and have more refined kind of little swipe, then you're going to put a little bit less paint on there. You're going to dot and sweep. Dot and sweep. And again, you can connect these together. So if I want to make a dot and then sweep, and then I want to connect it to the other side, I'm going to do the same and then sweep. Can make a dot and sweep. The other thing I can do, get a little bit more on there, is I'm going to make a dot and then I'm going to sweep. And then we can come right beside that dot as close as I can, and a dot, and then I'm going to sweep. And then I'm going to just dot and fill in the middle a little bit to there. A little bit more paint on, and I'm going to make one last dot, but I'm going to go straight away. And you can make somewhat of a heart that I've done better before, but that's just to show you. So again, those ones are a dot and then a drag the paint to make a sweep. And as you can see in my tests, ones that I did, here's a good example, is I use those a lot on my design to just add some different techniques in there and to make those dots and sweeps. So we have dots of equal sizes, we have decreasing dots, and we have sweeps. The other thing you can do is you can create a design that has some petals or things, and you can paint those petals out underneath a solid color. And then what you can do is add the dots on top as well. There are so many things you can do. As I said before, the sky is the limit. So let's get started, because I'm pretty sure by now that our canvas is fairly dry. If it's not, easy peasy to use a blow dryer or an embossing gun, like I said before. So I'm going to show you how to mark your canvas. In one of my test papers that I did as a design, I did mine so that it was in the corner. So instead of centering my center in the middle of my canvas, I moved my center way off to the side down in the corner. So I'm going to show you how to lay that out on our big canvas, and then I'm going to pull one of my little canvases just for time today to show you how to make this. So you're going to need your ruler. You're going to take your ruler and you're going to take it and you're going to line it across two corners. And you're going to need that, where'd it go? There it is. You're going to need your white pencil crayon. Mine is, as I looked at it, I'm like, that is a very old pencil crayon. I've had it for a long time. So you're going to draw a line from corner to corner all the way across your canvas. Now, if you wanted to center yours in the middle of your canvas, then you would go and do a line right across the other way again. I'm not going to center mine on my canvas. I'm actually going to make mine be my center of my canvas. I want it to be right, my center of my mandala, I want it to be right down here. So I'm just going to make a dot where I want my center to be, a little line across so that I can see where I want to be. I'm a bit of a cheater when it comes to the ruler, so you can measure in a certain number of inches on either side and then line up those two marks that you make there. I'm just a little bit of a cheater. I'm going to go to there and I'm going to make sure that I line up one of my inch marks, and I right now have it lined up at, yeah, I can measure it. I'll measure it for you. Okay, so I'm going to measure, let's say, I'm going to measure 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches down from this corner, and then I'm going to measure 2.5 inches down from this corner, which is a little bit shorter than my original, I think, so I might make it 3. Let's make it 3. 3 should be better. We'll make it 3. Those marks are not a worry that you're drawing on your canvas. Those marks can come off after, and we can always touch them up with paint. So I'm pretty close to what I wanted my center mark to be there, and I'm going to draw my line right across. Now the next thing I want to do is as you saw in my picture before that I'll lay on top, is I made some guidelines that came off through the middle of this. So I'm going to find the center, and if you have a ruler like mine that has big nice inch marks, it's really easy to just line one of your inch marks up with the edge of your canvas, and then there's less measuring to do. Line up the center of your cross that you've made to make your center mark, and then just draw out a ways from there. I didn't draw all the way across my canvas because I didn't want that line to continue out, and I didn't want to have to paint too much afterwards. So again, even your centimeter marks will work. If you line up with one of those long centimeter marks along the edge of your canvas, you're going to make sure that your ruler is straight, or you can line up the end of your ruler. It's just a cheater way to not have to measure so much. Not so much math in art. Okay, so here's kind of how I started. This is how my canvas looked. I'll lift it up so you can see better. This is how my canvas looked when I started to make this one. Now what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to set that off to the side, and I have a smaller one already created just for time sensitivity for doing our video so that you're not watching me for that hour and a half. And I'm going to show you how I started. So I took one of my really big tools, and I really like this pearly turquoise color, so I'm going to use it as my dot in the middle, and I'm going to center that right in the center, and I'm going to press and make my dot. Wipe off that excess paint, move that tool off to the side, and again, if you have the time right now, just take that bump in the middle and kind of flatten it out so that it doesn't end up with a great big bump. Okay, the next I took just a middle-sized tool, not anything big. This is similar to the end of a pencil eraser, okay, similar size. And then I just took my next color, which is my dark blue, and I did each one of my lines just a hair away. Each time, again, because I'm wanting these to be the same size, I re-dip in the paint. And I'm getting very close to my turquoise circle, and that is okay. Just be careful when you're going to do your dots that you don't get too close or you'll overlap and bleed your paint. I wanted it to be really close, so just getting up as close as I can and pressing down, making my nice blue dots. And I'm doing every one of those mark lines that I have there. I'll hold it up in a moment so you can see. So again, there's the initial first loop around. I'm going to take one that is quite a bit smaller than that one. This one is similar to the size of your wooden dowel or to your biggest cotton swab, similar size. Okay, so the next color I chose was a really nice pretty silver, and I'm going to go around. So this time what I'm going to do is start the same way as I did last time. I'm going to hit every one of those lines. When you hit every one of those lines, you just want to be nice and close again to the blue that you did just before. Now it's completely up to you when you're doing these, whether you choose to fill your whole canvas with your design or whether you decide to take your design and only use one corner of your canvas or do multiple mandalas on your canvas. Now what you're going to do, once you've done each one of those, this next circle around, I'm going to put one in between each of those that's not on a line to fill that circle in. You do get faster as you go at this. I'm just being cautious. This is kind of, paper was very smooth and easy to work with. Canvas is a little bit different, so I'm just taking my time a little more on the canvas. Canvas is a little more grainy when you're putting your paint down, so a little bit different when it comes to technique. So there we go. There's my first two loops around. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same size, actually I'm going to go one size up. Let's see if this is one size up. It's a little bit bigger. I'm going to go one size up from my other. If you were going to go one size up and you had one of these little dowel sticks, compared to the end of your thing, one size up would be the dowel versus the end of your cotton swab. So this would be one size up. Okay, or closer to the end of your pencil would be the next size up. So I'm going to go one size up, and then I'm going to take my pretty turquoise that I have there, and I'm going to put a little bit further away than I did last time, so I have a little bit of room around, and I'm just going to do 4 of my lines. So directly across from one another, 4 of my lines. Perfect. There we go. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my round-ended tool, which I left over to the other side, and I'm going to take have a really pretty turquoisey light blue, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to start at the outside edge of my dot that I just did. So this dot that I just did here, I'm going to start at the outside edge on my line. I'm going to do my dot, and I'm going to count back 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. Okay, again, I'm going to do the same on the opposite side of that dot. I'm going to start on that middle dot. I'm going to dot it. That's 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. The result you get is that right there. Going to do the same thing on my other 4 dots really quickly here. Okay, so quickly I did those again. So here's where we're at. Okay, the next one I'm going to do is the same but with one size up tool. So I'm going to use the end of my cotton swab for this one because it's a little bit bigger. I'm going to use my pearly dark blue, and I'm going to do the same thing. So so here we go. We've used that pearly dark blue. Next, we're going to take one size up from the pearly dark blue to a little bit bigger. So a little bit bigger than your pearly blue is if you have one of those little craft sticks. The smaller size craft stick will work. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start in a different spot and work our way away. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to dip into my turquoisey color. And I'm going to start right beside my smallest blue dot that I just did, and I'm going to start at the bottom of the one. And then again on the other side. Working my way on an arc towards my line. You can see how that looks. I'm working my way on an arc towards my line. I find on the canvas that the last dots don't look as nice as on the paper, but that's okay. You can always go back over it a second time to get those dots at the end to look a little bit better. Okay, so now that we have those there, we're going to do one more set of dots just like that. I'm going to go back to my rounded tool. If you were going to go back to a tool that was a size smaller, you would be choosing back to your just stick on your cotton swab would work for you as well. I'm going to go back to, actually I'm going to use the cotton swab. I'll use my blank cotton swab here, and I'm going to go back into my pearly white. I'm adding one extra dot this time just to make it all the way there. Now when you're in the corner, if you're doing yours centered off, this one's actually going to fit, but anything else we do is going to start to go off the corner. So once you go off the corner, it's not a big deal. You just don't finish those dots off the corner and then restart. I'll show you that in a moment because we're getting close to being there. It's starting to look pretty. Okay, so here we are. And as you see down here, we're starting to get off to the edges of the paper. That is totally okay that we're getting off to the edges of the paper. We are going to do our best to do our next designs and just kind of feather them out and make them go off the paper as they will. So I'm going to go back to my rounded end tool. I'm going to go in between my last dots that I just did, and I'm going to get my dark blue. And I'm going to start right in between those two white dots. And I'm going to bring those out. About 4 blue dots out. I did not have enough paint. Putting enough paint on is really important. Okay, I'm going to clean that one off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip back into my turquoise. And I'm going to, just up by the second dot, I'm going to swipe to the other side and swipe. And again, if you want to make it bigger, you can go over it a second time. Okay, and I'm going to clean that one off. I'm going to get my fine tip one, super teeny, and I'm going to use my pearly white. And I'm going to do another one here. Now, I'm also going to take back into my blue, and I'm going to go here between 1 and 2. A little bit more paint on there. 4 dots away there. Then I'm going to dip into my turquoise with my fine tip tool. Yeah. Nope, I'm going to use the end of my pencil. So what I did with the end of my pencil here is I actually scribbled my pencil just like this to wear some of that pencil down to give me a better tip. And then just wipe it off a little bit with your hand like that to get rid of any of the carbon shavings off the end of the pencil. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip into my turquoise and I'm going to go 1, 2, 4. Just gives a really nice, and I'm going to use this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I want to, I can go back here and do my dots because these ones are still on the page. And then the very last one that I did to do this is I'm going to take my very fine tip, I'm going to put it into here. Now, here's a small version of the same sample that I did. And with our larger canvas that we marked earlier today, here's another example of the same design, just not quite off of the page. So here's how it looks. Again, remember that if you want to go right in the middle, that you're going to take your ruler and you're going to cross back and forth across your page. I'm going to show you very quickly here just so you can see what it would look like. So you're going to mark across your canvas and across your canvas. Then you're going to measure to the center of your canvas and you're going to come across the center of your canvas there. You're going to measure and come directly across the center and make your line. And then again, directly across the center the other way. If you wanted to, you could make more lines and you could draw circles, or this is the place that you could do your leaf type designs like this and mark them in where you wanted to paint things. You could do things like that where you knew you were going to draw, just to help you with your design. I hope it was helpful to get that nice close view of how I was dotting things on. Again, you can use multiple mediums to do your mandalas. Choose the colors that you really love. Make sure that you use that test strip to test things out, and then choose canvas or choose paper. It's completely up to you. I hope you enjoyed our class today, and I would love to see in the comments below a picture of what you created at home. I hope everyone's staying healthy and safe. Thanks for joining me today, everybody.